A Colorado man forced to pay child support for a kid that isn't his. The DNA test that doesn't matter under state law.
About a month ago, I put out a video on this channel which a guy asked a woman a question about child support and how it's unfair to men.
Why is when women can't pay for their children, they can get government assistance, but when men can't pay for it, we go to jail?
Ow.
That's a good question.
She ain't even got an answer for that. There was a lot of comments that came from women. And the biggest thing that they talk about is if the men have had kids, then they should be paying for their kids. What's the problem? There is no problem with men taking care of their children, taking care of their offspring. What we're talking about, and what these women that it came to my comments fail to realize, is that this is a system that is targeted toward men. And the men that it affects the most are average men.
Today that you continue to collect child support from a guy that isn't the DNA father?
No, not really. He wants to be a jerk to me, I can be a jerk right back.
A Colorado man forced to pay child support for a kid that isn't his. The DNA test that doesn't matter under state law. Thanks for staying with us tonight. I'm Jeremy Hubbard.
And I'm Aristea Brady. Tonight, Fox 31 Denver problem solver Rob Lowe looks at a child custody case that seems to defy common sense. So, Rob, the big question, how can the courts force a man to pay child support if both sides agree he is not the biological father?
His name is on the birth certificate, and in Colorado, what's on the birth certificate matters more than what a DNA test later reveals, matters more than what the ex-wife acknowledges, or even the fact that the real biological father exists and visits the kid.
Dustin, you are the father.
Maury Povich has made a career out of revealing DNA test results, but sometimes whose DNA fathered a child doesn't matter in the eyes of the law.
And when Lori told me she was pregnant, we were dating not very long. I tried to do the right thing.
The right thing, to Chris Atkins back in 2000, was to marry Lori Longquist. And when their daughter was born, it's his name, Chris Allen Atkins, that went on the birth certificate. By the time their daughter was 2.5, the couple divorced.
We had a lot of fun together. My little bug.
Chris still enjoyed visitation, but when the girl turned 11, he says Lori wanted to change the girl's last name because Lori was getting remarried. He refused, it got heated, and he says Lori told him their daughter wasn't really his anyway.
So, alarms went off and we had a DNA test done, and she's not my biological daughter that I raised for 11 years.
This is the DNA test that proves Chris does not share genetic markers with the girl. And this is the judge who refused to accept the test as evidence.
Atkins tried to represent himself at court, which never works out well since most lay people don't know the rules for introducing evidence. When he finally came back to court with an attorney to file an appeal, his appeal was denied. The judge basically said, you already had your bite at the apple.
I just want my daughter, but I can't even see her. But yet I'm still paying child support. And the biological father has been found, and he gets to spend time with her. I don't get nothing.
Chris Atkins hasn't seen his daughter in 4 years because he says courts refuse to enforce visitation, but they do enforce child support, deducting $250 out of every paycheck plus $114 for her health insurance, for a total of $730 every month.
Is it greedy of you to continue to collect child support from him when he's not the biological father and he has no role in her life?
Maybe, but I don't feel bad about it. I really don't.
Lori Longquist says Chris abandoned their daughter when he found out the girl wasn't his biologically. Chris denies that, saying Lori would no longer facilitate visits.
I asked him to give up his parental rights, and he won't do it because everything he wants to do is piss me off and upset me. That's it.
If he gave up his parental rights, would you stop collecting the child support from him?
Absolutely, and I've told him that.
She'll stop taking child support if he agrees to terminate his parental rights. Is that easy enough for him to do?
No. It's very rare that a court will ever allow someone to terminate their parental rights.
Ron Litvak is a family law attorney who says what Lori proposes, no court would accept, unless
somebody else is willing to step into that role. The court's not usually going to do that.
Meaning a new name on the birth certificate and someone willing to pay the child support.
So it's a three-ring circus. There's got to be someone willing to step in. She's got to be willing to have that person step in. And then, of course, the guy who's been designated the father on the birth certificate has to be willing to step out.
Meet Logan Doolin, the third ring in our circus, the real DNA dad, who since learning he had a daughter 4 years ago, visits her about once a month, but doesn't pay a dime in child support.
Logan declined to sit down and interview with us, but when I met him, he made it clear he has no intention of paying child support if he doesn't have to.
Logan told me he doesn't think it's fair Chris has to pay child support, but said, quote, On the flip side, if I would have to pay child support, that would be messed up too.
Listen, it's not even just child support. We're talking about a whole judicial system that is making its income off of child support and divorce. These things affect men disproportionately to women in terms of the judgments that's passed out. There are a lot of women who are gaming in the system because they know this is their meal ticket. This is a way for them to have additional cash and be on the come up. And some women are having kids on purpose just so that they can get the bag.
85% of the head of household is a woman, because most of the men who should be in the household, they cannot make a decent living. And of course, it is better to know that a child will be fed 12 months out of the year than 3 months, which during the summer when construction work you can make a decent living.
The man in the house rule was written to prevent welfare cheating, to make sure that aid to families with dependent children would go only to families headed by mothers. But the effect of the man in the house rule is to create for children an atmosphere of investigation and surveillance. And thus, the welfare system in its operation turns out to be a system to make life harder for children.
The welfare system helps the disintegration of the American family. It offers money to families if the fathers will leave them and stay away, in that sense undoing the very stability of the family and taking away one of the two parents the children, of course, need. And what I have seen, I'm afraid to say, all over the country is that the legal system works against the best kind of home for these children. We don't encourage parents to be at home with the children. We don't encourage mothers to feel that they can find their destiny as mothers. We take away, in many of the most vulnerable homes, fathers from those homes. We herd foster children together in institutions rather than trying to find decent homes for them. We don't tap the resources we have in communities and with respect to older people so that they can help out vulnerable homes. We don't sanction and encourage and support in every way, morally, psychologically, and financially, the dignity and integrity of the home. And in the worst of it is that the homes that are most vulnerable are the homes that are least supported by the policies of local, state, and federal government. And no wonder then, out of these more vulnerable neighborhoods, we get an endless cycle of troubled, delinquent, wayward youth who grow up even more and become the lawbreakers of our society. Now, I don't know how you break this cycle except by starting out with young children.